What's up everybody, this is BR, and I think it's finally time to re-talk about SBMM. But this time, I actually have a challenge for all of you watching. More than likely, if you're watching this video and if you're subscribed to this channel, then you're probably not the biggest fan of SBMM. And I'm not the biggest fan either, if you couldn't tell from all my previous videos. But rather than regurgitate what's already been said, I've been thinking, is there such a thing as good SBMM? And elaborating on that, is there such a way to implement SBMM that actually benefits the player? Because as we know, most implementations of SBMM have really been pretty shitty, and most if not all of this frustration comes out of Call of Duty. I think I speak for everyone that every single modern Call of Duty ever since Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 has had a terrible implementation of SBMM. However, I don't think most people understand what that means. Sure, they hate the Call of Duty multiplayer experience and they blame SBMM, but I don't think many understand why. How does SBMM change their quality, or at least in the back end? Obviously, the most common complaint is that it makes lobbies way too fucking sweaty, which is understandable. Most players try to play Call of Duty to have fun, but for whatever reason, the casual side of Call of Duty, outside of ranked mode or anything like thereof, is a complete sweatfest because of how aggressive SBMM is. But this opinion isn't accepted by the entire community, as there are some strong supporters of SBMM as well, claiming that those who oppose SBMM are those who just want to roll on new players. And SBMM acts as some sort of shield to protect those players that either are not very good or just don't have the capabilities to be as good as everybody else. Which I think is frankly the goal of SBMM, which is to make Call of Duty a lot more accessible to everybody. Is that inherently bad? I don't think so. So that's why I'm not completely shutting out the idea of SBMM in games, obviously. You want to have some sort of system to separate the new players or the bad players, whatever you want to call them, right? Those people who just can't afford to invest the time and effort to become good at the game, and who want to play the game without being overly frustrated for something that they paid $70 for. I think that's a little bit respectable, so that's why I'm not entirely against SBMM. Look, I like to think of myself as a pretty alright gamer, right? A little bit hardcore. I do spend time and effort to improve in games. And I really do think it's a good idea to separate players like me from players who probably only play video games once a week because they've got a job or some other type of hobby. And if they want to enjoy the game as well, go ahead. So that's where I think SBMM does seem to have a purpose for. However, I think it's the execution that people are really pissed about. Because for games like Call of Duty, the implementation appears to be super aggressive to those who are good at the game, ironically. And this is where I'm going to have to point to a video by Blame Truth, the Codfather, where he brings up a lot of the counter arguments against abolishing SBMM from Call of Duty. And I do think that this opinion is the most nuanced compared to all of those who are just asking for SBMM to be removed completely, which I don't think is a good idea. In short, the problem isn't SBMM itself. It's all the features of Call of Duty that really sour SBMM for everybody. The imbalance and exploits of Call of Duty loadouts really do ruin the experience, because the players who are doing really well don't tend to be actually skilled mechanically. Instead, they're just taking advantage of some of the cheapest loadouts in the game. That's why Call of Duty games might become a total sweatfest, because while a kid who's rocking an overpowered loadout doesn't really have to try, if you want to play with your favorite weapon or favorite loadout, or you just want to try something different that's out of the meta, get prepared to sweat your fucking balls off in order to perform at even a similar level. Personally, I think that the stim packs in Call of Duty is one of the biggest, worst decisions of all time. Honestly, it's the equivalent of having Juggernaut or stopping power in the older Call of Duties. Isn't that funny? How some things change and how some things stay the same. And I can assure you that for a fact that if you were to run anything else other than Juggernaut or stopping power in those older Call of Duties, get prepared to sweat your balls off. Another one of Blame Truth's reasons is that it feels like Call of Duty really does try to keep you at that 1 KD ratio. Rather than actually going over something like actual skill level, the game decides you to put at an unfair disadvantage based on team differences if your KD is way too high. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this is actually true, but if it is true, then yeah, that seems like a terrible decision. Of course that's going to be overly frustrating. You pop off for 1 or 2 games, and for the rest of the matches, you're just going to have a terrible experience because the matchmaking is going to put you at a severe disadvantage. And on purpose. How is that not going to piss you off? Now, there really isn't much to talk about, just, don't do that. I don't think any game should be doing that. I especially hate it when Apex does that because they don't have SBMM. Instead, they have something called EOMM, Engaged Optimized Matchmaking, which, in summary, the game makes you lose a bunch of matches, and right before you have that feeling of quitting, it gives you a very easy match to play, just so that you keep on playing their game. And you can really feel it when you're playing Apex. You'll have a bunch of shitty games, and right when you're about to quit, it gives you a very easy match to win. So that way, you're like, alright, that was a good game, time to play another one. It fucking sucks, and I don't like it whatsoever. It isn't as bad as Call of Duty's system though, but I don't know. Anyways, let's continue. Finally, Blame Truth's last thing about SBMM is just the fact that it's not rewarding whatsoever. And this last point really does grant me the belief that maybe SBMM can be salvaged in such a way. It isn't inherently a bad system after all, it's just the way that it's implemented. And that last point is that it's not rewarding whatsoever. If you're doing good, if you're doing well in a match, if you're for whatever reason performing a little bit better, what do you get out of it? Do you get maybe a reward, a badge that says, hey, you're actually performing really good, now we're gonna put you in these harder lobbies, here's a badge, here's something to show for it, show that you're actually a good player. Obviously, no, you don't get anything. You don't get some sort of way to flaunt the fact that you have bigger skill. Instead, you just get shittier matches. You get pit up against players who are way above your skill level or who are abusing some sort of loadout or some sort of perk, as Call of Duty tries to push your KD down to 1.0. And I don't think that's fair whatsoever, and I really do believe that that's what makes the frustration just so much. You don't get anything out of it other than, a bad time. You don't have fun for what is supposed to be a casual shooter. Something that's outside of ranked mode. Because most ranked modes actually do give you a reward for performing well, either a shiny badge or some sort of bragging right. For Apex, if you perform really well in the ranked mode, they give you a badge and a diving trail. Overwatch gives you a badge and bragging rights on your profile. Even TF2 gives you a nice shiny badge on the main menu. I mean, for as little as that is worth, it's still something. What do you get with Call of Duty? Absolutely nothing. It's supposed to be a casual matchmaker, and yet you get pitted up against something that's equal to a ranked mode. And they don't even give you a ranked mode on top of that. So, before I finish off this video, all I gotta ask is, what does it take to make a good SBMM? And I think we have our answers. Just make it either a non-frustrating experience, or if you're really worried about, the quality of matches for all your players, not just those that are at the higher echelon or the lowest of the lowest, at least implement it in such a way that you don't get punished for doing good. Because I understand, you gotta protect your bottom line, you gotta protect those that are just playing the game really casually, and of course they need their baby lobbies. But that doesn't mean that you have to shit on your current fanbase who's actually trying on the game, They also deserve to have a nice chill time as well. And personally, I do think that's where Call of Duty really missed the mark. But anyways, that's all I've got to say. If you want to watch Blame Truth's video, I'll leave it down in the description below. I'll even leave a card up here on the top corner of the screen. I personally think he explains his position a lot better than I do, obviously. So please check out his video. Now I'd like to hear from you. I want you to leave your opinions down in the comment section below. How would you implement SBMM in Call of Duty in order to make it a much better experience? Or are you still on the kind of bandwagon of just remove SBMM completely? It has no place in gaming whatsoever. Make sure to leave your opinion down in the comment section below. If you found this video interesting, like it if you like it, dislike it if you disliked it. If you'd like to see more content just like this, make sure to subscribe. And if you'd like to support this channel, I do have a Patreon in the description. Thank you so much to my fellow patrons, and I will talk to you guys later.